Welcome back to another episode of Unglamorous Truths, the entertainment podcast where we talk about how to make it. I'm Amebit.
I'm Crystal.
I'm Chandra.
And today we have another special guest for y'all. Y'all are in for a treat, okay? We have the multi-hyphenates. Okay, we have actor, writer, activist.
Ooh.
All right, you have seen him on shows like Modern Love or Big Mouth or Human Resources, which he also wrote on. He has a memoir called You Gotta Be You. Give it up for Brandon.
I'm excited to be here. I might have to not look at this fucking TV.
Sorry, we should warn you. That is a trap.
Just don't look. Okay,
don't
so I'm
look.
right here. I'm
Just
right
don't
here. I'm
look.
present.
Look at that.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for
We're
having
so excited.
me.
It's going to be real fun.
Yes.
I got a fun little kickoff question and a fun little game of FMK, Fuck, Marry, Kill, Terrible Man Edition. I don't know what inspired me, but here we go.
All right.
So we have Mr. from The Color Purple.
Uh-huh.
Okay, you can pick which one.
Go on.
It could be the Coleman Domingo version, the other
But
version.
the character.
The character,
Go on.
Mr.
Yes.
Charles from Diary of a Mad Black Woman. Do you remember this?
Yes.
Okay,
Of
yes.
course. Yeah, he's from the tub.
That's
Yes,
it.
and then Samuel L. Jackson in Django.
Oh.
Oh,
Okay.
these are horrible.
I mean, they're all.
The Terrible Man Edition.
Right.
Yeah, they
Terrible
can all
Man
go.
Edition.
Oh,
So I gotta fuck one and marry one?
I
Yeah.
don't want none of that.
I don't want none of that energy around me.
Okay, I have been thinking about this
Okay.
for a minute.
Go ahead.
All right, and it's really about like cutting your losses here. I'm probably gonna fuck Mr. Okay. Especially the new version. Coleman is so attractive.
Absolutely. Very sexy.
I'm gonna have to marry Charles because I think he is the lesser of all the evils, and like at least he gave her the house. He gave her things. He kicked her out at the end. It was awful, but at least we're gonna live a good life for a little bit, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna have to kill Samuel because you are the betrayer of all betrayers.
Okay.
Damn. Yeah, mine is exactly the same, but for different reasons. I'm gonna fuck Mr. because he's not gonna go very long. Okay, this is before the days of Viagra. It's gonna be.
Oh my God.
It's gonna be quick.
That's a
It's gonna be a
perfect
few
reason.
pumps.
Yes.
He's gonna roll over.
In
He's
and
gonna pass
and
out.
go home. Yes.
You know, I don't have to.
Brilliant.
Long time engaged with him
Yeah.
on that. Yeah, I'm gonna marry Charles because at least he does have money. I'm going to look
Yeah.
nice for a while.
Yeah.
Until I won't. And yeah, then you have to kill. I mean, you're a betrayer.
Makes sense. You gotta go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you liable to turn me in. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And y'all are fine to keep those answers, or if you have some.
No, it's the same.
I
It's the
mean,
same.
you know,
That's good.
When you first said, marry, fuck, kill, I thought we were gonna pick terrible characters in our minds. So the first character that came up to me was that nigga Lamar from BMF. And that is not a movie, but he is the most deranged individual
Is that the one that's with,
on television.
what's her name? Summer Walker.
No,
It's the other.
the other one, the other one,
The other one.
the other one. He is a British actor, guys. Lamar, wherever you are, and he is our age as well, which is terrifying
This is
because
his character's
But
name.
his character.
character's name is Lamar.
Okay.
But I looked him up today because I was just curious about his age, and he's 37, and this man acts like he is 50 and out of his fucking mind.
wow.
Like truly screw sleeves.
Yeah.
I would kill him.
Yeah, I'm with y'all.
Yeah.
Kill my guy from Django. Fuck Mr. And I would be stacking Charles's cash.
Yes, exactly.
Stealing it.
Scam. I'm scamming. Absolutely.
Yes.
It's
At
2023.
least I'm getting some bags that hold their value. I'm at least getting Chanel and
I'm taking the
Hermes,
art
you
with
know.
me. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, great. I hope y'all sit with this for a minute and have a good laugh. All right, but this episode is about career pivots, expansion, and we thought that you were such a perfect guest for this because we admire so much of how you have taken agency in your career. And for those that don't know, we all met at NYU.
Oh my God.
Yes.
4 years ago.
And you know, we were all actors first. Curious, was acting always the dream, and was it the singular dream?
It was, yeah. Acting was a dream. It was a singular. My mom is an actress. She's a writer, but writer actress, and so I always wanted to just be an actor. And so I went, you know, that's what I did in high school. Did all the plays, did the musicals, applied to NYU for drama, and I thought that I was going to be, you know, the next Denzel, maybe, perhaps.
Hello, we say it all the time.
Discovered on the street as well.
Absolutely. I was gonna walk down the street. Some casting director's gonna find me. I'd be like, "Oh, bet," and I was going. And the rest is history.
Yep.
Yeah. That's what I thought was gonna happen.
Yeah, still.
It didn't, by the way. Spoiler alert. It did not.
4 years ago.
4 years ago. I still have time.
4 years ago. Yeah, exactly. But yes, same like us, and I feel like we kind of had similar trajectories, and that like after college we started a web series.
Yes.
Because the phone
Downtown
wasn't
Girls.
ringing, and we were like, we gonna make the calls.
Yes.
And for you started live shows. Like where was that born out of?
You know, my grandmother's a minister, and my mom is an actress and would do a lot of her own live shows. My mom had an HBO special.
Really?
Yes, which I just rewatched. It's on YouTube.
Like comedy?
Yes, and she did characters. It was in the 90s, and not to like hype my mother and I have a very
Miss Goodman?
complicated relationship, but she was a beast. It was like produced and directed by Stan Lathan. It was like in the 90s. She had long locks, like dark skinned Caribbean immigrant on HBO doing like 14 or 15 characters, talking about like Black versus African American. Her first character is a trans character. Like it's queer inclusive. It's wild. Again, the 90s. Like the things that we're talking about right now, she was on HBO talking about. And it was, so yes, so I grew up
So you
with
got
that.
it honest.
Yes, yeah. I grew up with that light in my house, and so it was kind of a seamless transition, I think. Into doing
What
it.
was the emotionality around it though? Was it like it's just something to do, or was it born out of a frustration?
It was definitely a frustration, and so when we graduated, I joined Political Subversities, which is a musical sketch comedy group that is mostly, I think, all NYU alums, essentially. And so we would do 40 new sketches and songs every week based off of what was going on in the zeitgeist, which you could not get me to do now at my big age of 20, you know, whatever. 29. But when I was 21, I had all the energy and the stamina to do that week after week. And so, but that show was like a boot camp of how to write for yourself, because I was also entering a cast that already existed. And so they were putting me in things that they thought fit for me, but then you have to write for yourself. And so I was writing for myself, and I would always hear from casting directors, "Oh my God, you're so funny. We don't know what to do with you. Oh my God, you're great. We don't know what to do with you." And so I was like, well, fuck it. I'm going to show you what to do with me. And so I took one of my characters from that show, Latrell Living, LeBron, Lucius LaCroix, Latavia, Alexei Jackson, and created the Latrell Show. And so I would do these like live shows around the city. And it was my outlet, my release, and a way to like show myself, I guess. So yeah, it was definitely born out of frustration of like wanting to perform and not wanting to wait for somebody to hand me the opportunity.
And do you feel like it then created opportunity?
I think yes. I think not in the way that I thought it would, if that makes sense. I think yes, I can reflect back and be like, oh yeah, everything that I have now comes from the tenacity of my 20s and being like, oh, I'm gonna make my shit. But I thought it would be like, oh, I do the show and then I get an HBO special. You know, I get my special. Absolutely.
Serious, I get a show.
Absolutely. And it's not that. It's like, oh, you get this little gig over here, or somebody brings you in for that thing, or that, you know, so it's just a bunch of small steps that were created from that. But it also just like, you know, I'm grateful for it because it allowed me the opportunity to sharpen my skills, my tools. So all the things that I'm doing now, I can look back and be like, oh, I was producing my own solo show, like, you know, from the invitations to the who you're inviting to, you know, lighting and so like all of that. And so like you really get your hands dirty. And so I think if you're anyone building your brand, which I think everyone at this point needs to be building their own brand, you really learn what that brand is by you know, being in the trenches of your own work.
How would you define your brand?
That's a really great fucking question. I think it's bold and queer and Black and unapologetic and honest and safe and inclusive
And messy.
Messy as fuck. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's, it's about, I think it's how do you embrace the things that we've been shamed for, the things that we've been told are not good about us. How do we embrace that and love on ourselves inside of those spaces?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good sentence.
Well, and I want to say that during the demi, when you started doing those messy Mondays, and I know we'll get to it.
Yeah.
You truly, like, I'm sure people don't do this all the time. I needed that light, and I needed that wretch.
Yes.
I needed it made me want to twerk. Like, it was my social activity.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I also learned a lot about assholes.
Really? Me too, honest. I learned so much myself. About all things. Yeah, I didn't know the booty could do that.
Open up to you immediately.
They do. Because how dare you? But that too. But it's anonymous. So
Yeah.
I can see people's handles, but I never ever share it. So I think there's a safety in that again, which I think is part of the brand of being a safe space to talk about the things that you would otherwise be judged for.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's beyond the anonymity. I hate that word, but I think
You did it.
But also, you yourself are so safe about it because you're just like it's just intrigue. It's like excitement. It's never like, oh.
Yes,
It's never judgmental.
It's never judgmental. That's really important to me that it stays non-judgmental.
Yeah.
I very much pick which ones I choose. Like there are things that are to me sloppy, not messy, and I say we are messy, not sloppy. So like when it starts to get into things about people's like affairs and things, it's like that's not my
you have a
bag.
hard no.
That's not my bag. I have boundaries around that. It's like
I love that.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that makes me question that I didn't think about. But how do you? Because I feel like you have a good balance of holding people accountable but not judging them.
Yes.
Because you don't take the shit. You're like, if they. Sometimes you'll be like, no, babe.
Don't do that.
We're not doing that.
Yeah. Don't fall him. Yeah.
That Taurus center.
Yeah, but it's still not judgy.
Absolutely.
So what do you attribute to that? Have you just always just been that like emotionally intelligent?
No, I think it's something that I've definitely learned. I mean, shout out to Vanessa, my therapist. I think I've been through things and people have held me in such a non-judgmental, loving way. And so when you receive that, you're like, oh, this feels good and I'm actually better and stronger because of it. So can I give that back to other people? And so like that, I think became a value of mine of like not being judgmental. Because, we're Black folks, I'm queer, like people are constantly judging and for what and for why? And so why would I then turn around and do the same to other people if I've been on the receiving end of that?
Yeah. Now, how did you gain the confidence to take to Instagram and build your platform? Because actually in the pandemic, you started with the activism. Was it just a frustration of like, y'all are not getting it? Let me break it down. Boom, boom, boom. This is racism.
So I think it actually happened before that, because even before that, I started doing like the Tea with B, which was I can't even really describe what it was, but it was like hot takes that I would do, these like 2-3 minute hot takes that I would do, and this is like before I even had a following. I think there was like y'all and like my family. So I think I was building myself in that. So then when 2020 happened, it was an accident, but it is that thing of. Let me actually figure out how I want to say this. So it was an accident because I posted a video out of frustration for what had happened to George and Brianna and Ahmad. And really, it was because I had this experience where I was in the Big Mouth room, which is mostly white. Out of a lot of the rooms, we are very much diverse, but there's a lot of white writers in that room. And so I had this experience where we were on lunch and then I watched that video and then I went back, and I don't think anyone had seen it, but it was like back to work as usual, which I felt like every Black person is doing that, right? We're all going back to work constantly after experiencing something traumatic. And I was so frustrated that I made this like 10-minute video that was to my white friends. And then that went viral. And then the next morning I woke up at 5:30 and I looked at my phone and I had all these followers coming in, and like the video was like close to 1 million views. And I was I sat on my coffee table and I felt my grandmother, who's passed, and I felt our ancestors and our elders, and it was that question of, do you lean into this or do you run away from it? Because it's like to continue talking about anti-racism is a heavy bag.
And it can weigh on you.
Yes.
Because my family, they all work in anti-racism.
Yeah.
They've been there for years. And
Yeah.
it's like now they're all at the point where they are like, we need healing.
Yes.
Because we tired.
Yes.
And they still out here fighting.
For sure, but you're
tired.
tired.
Yes,
The
it's a lot.
labor of it, because you're articulating and translating things for your people,
Right.
for non-Black people, and also you're experiencing it
Yep.
too. And so, like, having to hold all of those things at once is just challenging. But I said, my grandmother's a minister. Like, this is legacy. My grandmother used to do this. My mom is somebody who I just said, like, was speaking about all these things and through her work. So it's like, oh, your legacy. So step into this. And so that's how it happened. I just kept doing video after video. And then after 6 months, I said, tell me something good or tell me something messy, because I need to,
well, that's a pivot.
Yes,
that's
that was the pivot.
A
Yes.
natural pivot.
Yes, yes. I needed my joy. You know, I think, our rest and our joy is part of our activism.
Yeah.
And it was getting exhausting, you know, and it was this video that I did called, I did an interview with Glow Atanmo, who is a Black female travel blogger. And we had this thing where she said, I don't like when white people call me sis. And I was like, girl, I hate when white people call me sis. And we did this thing back and forth. And so I posted that clip, and that clip went berserk with white people. How do black people own sis? I call my sister like.
How do you navigate the comments?
I actually try not to engage with it, because I learned pretty early on that people aren't talking to you, they're talking to a version of you. And so you might sit there and really try to articulate yourself. They don't give a fuck about you. It's a version of you. So it's a waste of time. But I felt compelled to address this because a lot of the attacks were on Glow. And it was just like, it was so wild, because you're like, we're talking about protecting Black women. We're in the middle of this conversation, and you're literally attacking the Black woman on my show. I said the thing too, but you're all going for her. And so I felt protective in that. So I literally spent a full day working on a video about what was said. And it was this whole video about conflict management and what did you hear versus what was said. It was another like 10-minute video. I finally got it together. I posted it. Both these videos went viral, and still the dissension in the comments. And I was like, oh, the algorithm is supporting the dissension. The algorithm wants us to fight. And yes, if you
They see it as engagement.
Yes. And so, like, it's just getting more and more traction. And I was like, oh, I actually can't be a part of this. I actually, like, you can't use my trauma to make money off of me or to build engagement. Or like, now I'm getting more followers because people are mad. I can't do that. And so that's where the pivot came for Messy Mondays, because I was like, I like dick jokes, babe. I love to tell them. I like to hear them. So, like, how can we pivot this so that there's some joy happening as well?
And during that period before you did pivot, when all the whites started to emerge and ask for help and ask for tools, were you ready for that? Did you have resources to direct them to, or did you feel like you had to explain anti-racism, like, nonstop, meaning like people DMing you, people like following up and like, can you help me? Can you help me?
Like, you've now become like
did you
their
feel
mentor.
did you feel like you were a counselor, like, or did you redirect it and be like, check this out?
I think that Vanessa is a key here, because I had learned boundaries already.
Fantastic.
And so I was already like not in my DMs. So everything goes into like the general box. So I was already very careful about when I would go in my DMs, because especially during that time, you were also getting a lot of like awful things being said. And so I was really careful about what I was engaging with. And I had one interaction, which was with another Black gay person who came for me. And this is what I mean about, like, they see you as a person, or they see you as an object, not a person. So I actually had a conversation with that person, and they apologized, because they were like, I was just frustrated in general, and I came for you. Once I got that, I was like, oh, I don't need to be engaging at all. So you'll get what I put out. And if you got questions, Google is lovely, honey. You can Google it, but I will put out what I can, and then if you have further questions.
Oh, it says this is not a discussion. This is a lecture.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You sit. You digest what you want to digest.
Absolutely.
Yes.
We're not in conversation.
We're not in conversation.
This
We just
page is
can't
not a
be.
democracy.
Yes, we can't be. It's just too many people, too many personalities, too many nuances. And like, I am not representative of all Black people. I can tell you what my experience is, but I can't. I remember I had said early on, like stop messaging your black friends. Like stop asking them. I think I had said like just say like I love you and I'm here and whatever. And then I heard from so many black friends that all their white friends were messaging them. I love you, I'm here. I'm like, yeah, I can't be the voice of I can't be.
Yeah.
The
I feel like
Brandon told me so. He's a black.
He said this, so like I'm like I
Go to
can't.
him.
Yeah.
But a little bit back to your career. You've written an essay about your relationship to your career and it being abusive and you being the abuser.
Yeah.
And it was so profound to me because I feel like every artist, like starting from the ground up, experiences that. Like you make so many sacrifices for this life, for this dream, for this industry.
Yeah.
And for it to not to give anything back in return in the timeline that you have decided that it should.
Yes.
It's frustrating. The compassionate side is like, but also, yes, it's hurtful.
Yeah.
It's really hurtful. And so we've all been in that position where we're like, bitch, work harder.
Yeah.
And really sometimes it's like girl, it's okay.
It's okay. Oh my God, yeah. Like hug yourself, rest, relax, live.
So what was that experience for you and how did you change the dynamic of that relationship?
It was a reckoning and a war. I remember, this is like even before I got Big Mouth, Matthew and I don't even know if we got married yet, but it was like around New Year's and he was asleep and I was up and I remember like just thinking about emotional abuse because I had been in an emotional abusive relationship. And then I don't know, I was thinking about like my goals for the new year and whatnot in career. And then I was thinking about how I was treating it. And it just like, I started to weep because I was like, oh, if my career was my partner, it should leave me because I have been so ruthless and I've expected way too much. I've wanted way too much from it. Like you expect this thing that is art, whether it is acting or writing or singing or whatever, to fulfill your soul as an artist, but also to pay your bills, to make you visible or famous, to give you power, to buy your house. Like it has so much pressure on it. Yeah. And when it doesn't do it, then like then what's happening? I'm not good enough. I'm not tall enough. I'm not skinny enough. I'm not this enough. And you just spiral in a really abusive way that is not conducive to building the life.
I spiraled so hard yesterday, so it's reading me down. I spiraled so hard.
Yes.
Oh my God, what a waste of a day.
But it's not a waste of a day because I think like if you can, the faster you jump back, the more you can say the work is actually working.
Yeah.
Right? Like we're gonna fall, we're gonna get hard on ourselves, but how quickly can we bounce back from that and realize that like, actually, let me be soft with myself. I think the strike, especially the actor strike, was so illuminating because when they said like 90% of the actors can't afford their health insurance that are in the union, it was like, okay, click. It's not you, babe.
It's not.
It's not you. If 90% of actors in the union, we're not even talking about if you're not in the union, if 90% of the actors in the union cannot afford health insurance, it's a problem with the industry.
Boy.
Right?
Yeah.
Boy,
Like it's not. It's like
it's
you
not
can't. You can't book more. You can't. It's like it's not
That's
you.
a system.
That's
Yeah.
a system that has made you think, oh, you're not working
You're
hard enough.
validated. Yes.
Yeah.
You're not doing this enough. You go to that audition, go to that networking thing, read that thing, memorize that. It's like, no, babe. Like it's actually the system. So I think you have to get clear about what is it that you want out of your life holistically, and your career is a piece of that. But like, if you want to be an artist, then it doesn't matter who sees it, right? Like, can you make art for art's sake? Can you take the price tag off of it?
Yeah.
You can have that side of it. I think you can have the career side that's like, this has to pay my bills. But then like, we all went to school because we loved the stage.
Yeah.
We loved movies. We loved TV. We loved plays. And so like, can you find that piece again? Can you discover that? I'm not saying go do like the off Broadway show for $10. Like, if that's not where you are, but like go find or make the things or work with the people that you love and do something and let it just be that. Let it just be art.
Yeah.
And if it pops off, great. If it doesn't, great. You're feeding your artist soul as well.
Yeah, the suffering is really introduced when the money of it all comes into play.
That's how the capitalism.
Yeah, because you're like, wait, I will do this for free.
Yes.
But you won't let me live here for free.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like I was saying before, this industry is fiscally violent.
It absolutely is.
And the ups and downs of it are it's jarring as an adult, and you're like, oh, this isn't how my life should be. I'm a grown person.
Absolutely.
I should be stable.
Absolutely. If anything, the strike taught me is like, oh, and everybody listening to this, diversify your income. Okay, you have your shit.
You were a trainer for a while.
Babe, yes, I was. Like, what are your other skills? What are the other places? Like, podcasts are not inside the union. Like, what are the other ways you can be also making your money so that if the girls decide to strike, by the girls, I'm gay, so all of us is one, but the girls, decide to strike again, like, you're not fucked, because we do have to strike probably again at some point because it's not fair.
Yeah.
Like, everyone should have fucking health insurance.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me.
That's bananas.
That's bananas.
90%, and they're like, okay with that.
Yeah.
Like, that's like to like have those numbers.
But pay your dues.
Pay your dues. Girl, what? When that dude notice came in during the strike, I said, girl, what?
I know.
I definitely called him like, I'm not giving you this.
I just love that you called.
I did. And you know what that man said to me? He said, it's okay.
I know that's right.
He said, you know what?
Because it has to be all right.
He's like, off the record.
It's going to be all right.
It's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay.
I don't have it.
We are striking. Nobody has it, baby.
No.
It's going to be okay.
We out here trying to get the free tacos.
Yes.
From the truck.
I'm coming to get the donuts, babe.
Yes.
The pizza,
And
the
man,
lunchtime.
when I get there and the donuts aren't here.
Come
I'm
on.
coming to this site no more. Y'all not gonna donuts. Y'all play too much.
Y'all ain't treating me right.
And so, a question for everybody. When did you give yourself permission to be a writer? Because I know, at least for me, like, it took a very long time. Like,
Do you mean permission or to call yourself a writer? Like, were you writing before?
to call yourself a writer.
Okay,
Because
yes.
I feel like, for me, the first 2 pilots, like, I didn't even give myself permission. I was like, these people giving me money, and they don't even know that, like, I'm just getting by. Oh, my God. Yeah. Until, like, there was a reckoning of, like, no. You are getting these jobs because you're worthy, and you are a writer.
Can I say this? This will change everything. Nobody in Hollywood is going to give you a job to be nice. This is like the most vicious industry.
Even your friends.
Even your
Agent
friends.
said that to
Nobody
me.
is going to. I would be like, because I did the same thing. You're like, I'm not worthy. I don't need to be here. It's like nobody is being nice to you. If they gave you the job, it's because they actually believe you can do it. So the only person that's not.
I was like, is
thinking
this a pity deal? Or
Right. There's no such thing. The way they snatch them coins right back, like there's no. If you got the gig, it's because they want you and they believe in your talent. And believe me, they've scoured everywhere for talent. If you've been through any side of casting or even reading scripts for a writer's room, like we go through a lot of fucking scripts before we pick who we want to see. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. Anyways, that'll save a lot of time.
But when did y'all give yourselves the permission?
I mean, for me, it was I would say pretty quick. I mean, once I got the first check, but also some of that too was like, okay, other people could see me as a writer. It actually became easier to identify myself as a writer than as an actress. And so for a while, I really kind of more presented myself as a writer because
That's where the
their
money.
movement
So
was happening.
you
That's where
equated
social
money
was
with
happening.
like, this is what I'm getting money
Well,
for. So this
for
is
real
the
now.
career.
It's for real.
Yes.
And
same.
I'm in this union. Like I'm a writer.
Yeah.
You know, so it actually I had to reverse and kind of go back to being like, okay, I'm also an actress. Just because I'm not in shit, don't mean I'm still that bitch.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Just I'm coming.
Your title is not connected to your paycheck. Like
Yes.
we've always been actors, we've always been writers.
Yeah.
But I think we wait till we're got a check to say no, but actually they're paying me for it now. It's real. But no, like it's already real. Like you don't need a paycheck to be a writer.
It's interesting because I feel like being a writer came out of a survival mode for
Sure.
me in the 20s of just like, oh, this is working. This is great. Okay, we can do this. Bet. It's another stream of income. But it was never, it took a long time for it to feel like a calling or like this is also a part of me. Like this is soul work, right?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is something I can do on my journey to do all these other things, to
Sure.
create work for myself. And so honestly, and it's funny because I also felt a confidence in it. Like I was like, oh, people are really respecting us for what we're doing with this. But I wasn't even respecting myself sometimes with it, right?
Yeah.
And I think what made it really clear was when I got hired at NYU to teach screenwriting for other students last year.
And you're like, now.
Like, I guess if I can teach it, I guess I really know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But like, more importantly, again, it was like a trade. It was like I can do this trade. But now I feel like something's shifted where I've claimed it as something I would do even without the money. Like it's soul work. It's really deep work for me. It's actually some of my favorite work now.
And I think where a lot of the reticence comes from is that, like, or at least for me, like, I didn't train it.
Yes.
I didn't train.
Yes.
And
we're trained
For the scam.
trained.
But it's another scam, though, right? Like, you have to be trained in order to do the thing. Which is like, yes, if you're a doctor, I want you to be trained.
Yeah, absolutely.
But how many actors have massive careers and never went to NYU or Juilliard or any of those schools that you spend all your money at? Like, they just did the thing. They took a couple classes. So it's like this idea of training making us the thing. I had the same thing with writing. I was like, I didn't go to school for writing, so I'm not a writer. I'm an actor. But no, lies.
And it's like, it's one thing to write for myself.
Yes.
Like to write for
For
other
people.
to make up all these voices and these characters, even though I do it in my head all the time, but to put it on the paper, no,
That's not me. That's not me. I'm an actor. I'm an actor.
Baby, we trained in the field, though. Okay, the resume shows the training.
Yes.
We wrote for this, and wrote for that.
Right.
And with that said, how did you get to write for Big Mouth?
How did I get to write for Big Mouth? Well, kind of the same, which was out of survival, which was I watched a show with two of my best friends. It was a queer show, and there were no POC. And the queer POC that were on the show were very much archetypes. And this was like a big show that was coming out. It was a big deal. And we watched it, and it ended, and we hadn't said a word to each other, but you could feel that, like, all of us were disappointed. And then when we finally did speak, it was like, what the fuck did we just watch? And I went, I could do that, which is great, but also like, no, you can't just like write a fucking pilot. But I thought I could write a fucking pilot. So that's what I started to set out to do, was to write a show. And then I came to LA, and so I was pursuing acting, but also like working on the script. Writing a pilot is the hardest fucking thing in the world. So it's not easy. It's the hardest fucking thing. And my one of my best friends had gifted me Shonda Rhimes' master class, which I swear by. And I give any actor who's like, I'm writing a script, I'm like, here's my password. And I took that course, and then I got my script in the right position, and that's the script that got submitted to Big Mouth because I got an agent, or I got a lit agent at my agency, and then he submitted it unbeknownst to me, and they liked it, and I interviewed like twice.
Was it your first staffing interview?
My first staffing interview was Big Mouth. Yeah. And it was a 6-month gig. I spent the first.
Oh, that's a long room.
Yeah.
Praise
A shorter room, if you think about it, because I guess like a network would have been all year, like Grey's Anatomy. They're there.
Oh yeah.
They're there all year, but yes.
You got that money.
But that money though, that network money though. All year, a year or two. Hey Grace.
I come on the trap for 16, 18 weeks though. So 6 months.
Cut him open. I can do it. I can
It
write
was like
it.
January to June, and I spent those first 5 months thinking that I was shit, like imposter syndrome. Like I called my manager every day for the first 3 months, like always in tears, like I don't think I should be here, and she would always be like, you got this, like you got this, and so I stuck it out. But it did take those first like 5 months to feel it. And from that, we ended up starting a mentorship program that I headed up, because part of that imposter syndrome is not our fault. If you haven't done a thing, and then you show up in a room and you're the only woman, you're the only black person, you're the only queer person, and you're in a room with people who've been together, like, of course, babe, you got imposter syndrome. Like, you don't feel safe. You don't feel, and not that anyone's doing anything to not make you feel safe, although they could, but you just haven't done the thing, nor do you have anyone who looks like you or loves
That
like
has
you
done the thing.
that has done the thing.
There's a whole language that you don't know, and you're like, oh.
Of course.
Let me tell you something. That's how I felt when I watched Black Panther for the first time.
Yeah.
I was like, this is how white people have felt their whole lives watching fucking Batman and Superman.
Absolutely.
Like, of course I can. Look at me. That's me.
You feel-
Seeing the first black superhero, I was like, I get it now.
It's different.
That's the audacity that they move with.
Yes, and but when your bosses are predominantly white, they don't have that awareness, and so that's why I wanted to start the mentorship program, because it's like there are so many talented people that are black, that are queer, that aren't getting the gigs because they just don't know the language and they don't know what to expect.
Yes.
And the gatekeepers are keeping them gates up, babe. And so like if we can break that open and intentionally be like, no, let me show you how to do this, then I think we can actually usher in diverse. That's real diversity. I mean, honestly, I kind of say fuck diversity. It's inclusion that I'm looking for. It's not a diversity hire like the one they put a one black person. And it's like we did it. It's like no, that's not it. Actually, especially if that person doesn't actually have a voice that you're listening to or support, you're setting them up for failure.
Yeah, because how can you be in a writer's room pitching a joke and nobody catches it because there's not
Because there's a cultural difference too.
Right.
Yeah.
Just like this.
Yes. One of my colleagues and I would always he would make a joke and I would be the only one laughing. And it's like, you can start to think that you're not funny.
Exactly.
Because there's just a cultural difference. It's like, that was hilarious.
Yeah.
They just don't watch Living Single, babe.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
But you're still funny as fuck. And you should know that. Which is why I always tell writers, be careful who you let read your scripts.
Yes.
Because sometimes, you can't let everybody read your scripts because they might miss it because they're not plugged in. Doesn't mean it doesn't work. Doesn't mean it's not good.
They'll convince you that a diamond is a rock.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And with no malice intended.
No, because it's their limitation.
1000%. We have had to be versed in everything
Yes.
to survive,
Yes.
to thrive.
Yes.
They have not. So you have to remember that, be strategic as you're.
Yeah,
That's
you
why,
need
that's
to
why I had to show my freshman year roommate, Ashley Marinelli, wherever you are, made her watch Poetic Justice. To Society.
That's right.
Okay, the girl's from Hyde Park, New York.
You sound
I
like
had
educate you.
to. I did. I said, hold on, girl. Sit down. We watching ATL today.
Have a seat.
Have a seat right here, baby. I got the popcorn and everything. Have a seat right here.
You got some hot sauce on it? No, not yet. Okay.
I love it. Yes.
Now, for all of you, has writing made you a better actor and vice versa?
Yes.
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 Because you know what the writers are trying to or intending to do, and then I think you can when you ask questions as an actor, you can ask them more specifically in a way that one doesn't offend the writer, but also gets everybody where they need to get to.
Yes.
You know, and I think it's brilliant to have that skill as well.
Yeah. And I feel like just understanding story helps me know what things I need to do as an actor to get us.
Yes,
You know, like,
absolutely.
okay, I see what we're doing here.
And I feel like I'm more free in my auditions now too, because I'm like, oh, I know what's precious and what's not, because I understand story. So I know, oh, this has to get hit, but over here we can have a little bit of fun, at least in the audition. And so I feel like you have more tools in your box.
Yes, exactly. I want to transition to a segment that we call Bootleg Fabulous.
Oh my God, yes.
Tips and tricks on how to make it for the free or for the low. Now, when something isn't working, how do you know when to pivot or to push harder?
I think your inner counsel is really fucking important. And I remember yes, honey, the meter. I remember they would say this in school, like, the people that you're here with right now are the people you're going to work with forever. And you'd be like, okay, girl. But clearly this is true, right? Like, clearly that's a thing. And I think that it's important to have people who have similar taste to you, so you know your barometer. So that when something isn't working, I can send it to you and you'd be like, oh, no, just change that, da-da-da-da. Or you'd go, no, babe, that's not working. And then that can be your guide a little bit. I feel like is helpful. Like, who are your collaborators? It's not the exec at the network. You know what I'm saying? It's your people, your fellow artists that can help you decide to push.
Y'all
that.
taking notes because that was good.
That was a great tag. I'm like, wait, hold on. Okay.
Hold on.
Yes.
Y'all check your emails.
Thermometer. I love that.
Yes.
Temperature check.
I think I know when I'm working, when I feel like I'm working so hard to keep something that's not fitting.
Ooh.
When I'm just going everything trying to rationalize how to keep something in, and it's like I wouldn't have to fight so hard for it if it actually fit. So let's just turn. Let's just turn.
That.
Had to do that yesterday. Script. Say, girl,
It's not working.
stop. We just spent a week
trying to make it work. Yeah.
It's not. It
It's
doesn't
not work. Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
It's hard sometimes to let go. You're like that.
You gotta. Sometimes you gotta kill your babies.
Yeah. Whether it's the joke, whether it's the scene. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like you have to give yourself space to put it aside and just do something for yourself to get you back in your body. Because when things go wrong, it's so easy to just start to question, judge, and get stuck up here. And it's like, yo, that's not what the answer is. The answer's in your gut. So like, you have to ground, whether that's breath work, whether that's like just going for a run, whether that's like just being like, fuck the script. I'm gonna go watch movies tomorrow for 3 hours, and then I'll come back to it when it feels good. Because the feeling good is the intuition, and that's when you know the direction. So
for me, it's like a grounding. I have this on my screensaver. It's remember why you started.
Ooh.
Always go back to square one of like, why did I even start this? So that I can see how I got to where I was. And if it's like, was it because I told somebody I would?
Yeah.
Was it because I needed whatever money was attached to it? Or was it because this was expressing something that I need to say?
Yeah.
And
Intention.
yes, the intention. What was the intention behind?
Whenever you're doubting, it's like, what is your intention? I feel like if you go back to your intention, it clarifies so much of whether you should stick with the thing or not. Also, living.
Living.
As an artist, like, you have to live. Like,
You don't have nothing to say if you're not living.
Thank you.
What you talking about?
What are you gonna pull from if all you doing is rehearsing and writing? You have to live. You gotta hang with your friends. You gotta go see a movie. Go see other. I went to New York, and I went back to MoMA for the first time in years, and just walked around taking in art. It's not even like I can't paint. I don't. But like to take in other people's art, Renaissance. Go watch the movie. Like to take in other artists is like such a way to, I think, also open yourself.
After so long of making yourself feel guilty for doing that.
Yes.
It's like, I don't deserve a trip to the MoMA. I need to be working.
They talk about that in The Artist's Way. It's just called an artist date.
Yes.
It's like,
I love that
artist
book.
dates are just refreshing your gaze on the world so that you reconnect to being an artist first and not a machine, not a worker, not a connector, not a, like all these things. It's like, remember why you started. You're an artist.
Yes.
Remember it. And so I like to, even in LA, have what I like to call like LA days, where it's like I play in LA like I'm visiting. Like it's like a tourist LA day. It's like, what would I do if like it was my first week here?
Yeah.
And like, how do I bring that energy back? And the same can happen in New York. Like, that's a great idea. Going back to New York and be like, let me pretend I'm at NYU this week. Like, what would I be out in the streets doing? Stuff
It's
like that.
so important.
Yeah.
It's so important to get back to yourself and to get out of your head and into your body and into the world so that you have something to say. Otherwise, at 18, I thought I had so much to say. I had shit to say. You had to live a little bit.
Yeah. Yes. Well, that was our episode. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This was so lovely.
You gave us so many great gems. You actually taught me. I'm
Y'all
sitting here
gave me
like,
some gems.
okay.
This was a lovely conversation.
All right, I'm gonna watch this over and over again. I love it. And thank you for joining us. I am Amebit. You can find me at AmebitBayene.
I'm Crystal. You can find me at _Chris.
I'm Chandra. You can find me at Chani.
I'm Brandon. You can find me at Brandon Kyle Goodman.
And we are Unglamorous Truths. You can find us at Unglamorous Truths, and you can stream our podcast wherever you find yours.
Ow.